Hello and welcome to episode number 10 with Chicago and Ben. Yeah, Ben Johnson is taking over this historic franchise that in 2024 did not necessarily reach their super highs. Though, was it all bad? Where is it going? And is the Ben Johnson right fit? Let's all find out, shall we? So we start as usual with reviewing their draft in 2024. And we'll start with Caleb Williams as a number one pick overall. He was coming into the league with sick hype. Like, the amount of expectations from him was really big. And you cannot really say that he disappointed, but you cannot say that he thrived. There are some things that you would hope that he had better in the year one, especially he was just overholding the ball, not taking some chances, and that alone resulted in numerous sacks. Obviously, a lot of the times it was on the offensive line, but not as much as people probably tend to believe, because the offensive line was actually not that bad. Was Caleb a bust? Was he bad? No, not necessarily. He is definitely a QB that still has everything that we kind of loved about him entering last year's draft. And with Ben Johnson as his new play caller, I definitely believe he still has potential to be a superstar in the league. So far, I would not go down from this grade A+ to anything else. But obviously, when you see what type of season Jaden Daniels had, you might wonder a little bit. But I still feel like Caleb is definitely the man for the Bears. Their second pick was Rome Odunze, who kind of fell into their lap after Falcons chose Michael Penix. And again, I felt like he's exactly the third best wide receiver in the draft. He was closer to my number 4 guy, Brian Thomas, than he was to my number 2 guy, Malik Neighbors, but still a prospect that you should, that in normal draft definitely doesn't go number 9. I think this year probably go top 7 at worst. He's a really good player. He showed that in year 1 despite having DJ Moore and Keenan Allen kind of two huge weapons in front of him. He still carved pretty big role for himself, over 700 yards. And especially like later part of the year, he really started to get noticed and felt on the field. Unfortunately, that was not necessarily a point with Kieran Amegadji. I felt it was a reach, and first year he got on the field for some occasions, and he did not look playable. So as of right now, I don't really consider him even a good backup. And for a 75th pick, that was not necessarily what at the time I wanted for the Bears. And even right now, I am really struggling with this pick. So it's probably a lot about how do you perceive Braxton Jones and his future. But unlike, I would say, a lot of people out there, I absolutely believe he's a franchise left tackle, and you have one. So you were not necessarily needing to strive for like some big developmental guy in Kieran Amegadji here, because perhaps 4th, 5th round, yeah, but here I feel like this was still super hugely valuable pick. Just to give you some hindsight, and obviously you don't know that, Dominic Pioney was picked up like 10 spots after him. Imagine him on this Bears line. That would be really nice for the Bears, wouldn't it? So, with that being said, we move to their later round picks. Austin Booker, a really selection I liked. As of right now, he's not a player that should be out there for every 3 downs. He's absolutely a guy that his floor is kind of very low. He's pass rush specialist, I would say, at this point of time. But he definitely has a huge potential. I think he showed some good flashes. A guy that I'm really intrigued to watch even more in my summer review, because I did not necessarily get to like all of his 283 snaps or even to his major plays. But I've seen some of the highlights, and obviously I watched the Bears playing as overall team. And I think the talent is there, and he could be this team's future number 2 on the edge, yet I don't expect him to be that next season. And it was like kind of never the plan, if you ask me, or at least in my opinion, because they were drafting him as this really like developmental prospect that, maybe year 3, that's the guy you look and point, and yeah, you are our player. So it's going to be interesting what Dennis Allen is going to make out of him. With Tory Taylor, a lot of people were freaking out about this pick because like taking a punter with 4th round, like when they didn't have the 3rd and 2nd. It was like, yeah, they had 3rd, not the 2nd, but like with Kieran Amegaji, I kind of tend to forget that they spent this valuable pick on him. People tend to freak out. I was slightly higher on it because I know that historically drafting punters or kickers looks really bad, and not many of the guys really came true. But if you see a special talent, that Tory Taylor was a special talent in terms of college rankings, at least again from what I have gathered about this position, because this is really not the guys I am good at evaluating, but from all the buzz, from all of it read, and from some of the things that he was able to do and I've seen, yeah, I did not have that much of a problem. And I think year 1 he absolutely showed why, it's okay occasionally to draft a punter or a kicker. And I was especially punters because kickers, they are, I think, much more about the head rather than punters. So with them, the spot could be too big for them in NFL. I think with punters, it's actually they would be my preferred position towards being drafted, despite they are probably, not probably, of course, they are like lower valued, less than kickers. But I would say they have much less of a draft bust potential. So if I'm drafting them, I'm actually much more looking for punters. And that's pretty much it in terms of the draft. They did not necessarily have many picks. They had exactly 5. Those 2 top ones did pan out, not necessarily to the biggest upside that you could hope for, but neither of them was, you can call, a bust at any stretch of imagination. And with the rest of the guys, I mean, you are discouraged by what you've seen from Kieran, but other than that, it's okay. So with QB, we are starting rundown of 2024 roster, how they did it. We already talked about Caleb a lot. The biggest and most talked point about was, oh my god, so many sacks, give him a new O-line, Ben Johnson's gonna repair that. Well, I honestly feel like the O-line, and we will look at the guys more directly. I think they absolutely did their job to average O-line quality. I'm not saying they were like super good, but a lot of the things was about play calling. A lot of the things was about Caleb, and I'm not gonna just ignore that. I really feel like this O-line was not near as close as a huge issue as people are tending it or making it to be. At the same time, I really feel like when we were projecting this amazing year for Caleb, there was supposed to be much less turmoil in the organization, because let's remember, Matt Eberflus was fired during the season. He was replaced by their offensive coach, who was kind of handling Caleb from week 1. And it was kind of noticeable when he was moved to being a head coach or interim head coach, then the production dropped. So that's not what we want to see, and that's like when I was talking about those situations with the Bears preseason and pre-draft, I was really suggesting like not drafting Caleb is not an abysmal decision, at least in my opinion, because I'm expecting Matt Eberflus to get fired, and we've seen so many exceptionally talented young quarterbacks to get lost in this process. I'm obviously not suggesting that you should have used the number one pick on anyone other than Caleb Williams. I think he was absolutely clearly number 1 pick, but I was suggesting that perhaps trading down could have been the option. But let's put us over that. And also, I would say that with Caleb, a lot of the people out there, and me included, were saying he's got kind of the best offensive weaponry that rookie kind of ever entered. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, Coleman. There was a lot of players that not every guy has in his arsenal. But pretty much beside Rome Odunze, I would say neither of those guys actually lived up to the quality that we expected pre-season for them. I'm not saying there were huge drop-offs, as we will talk about those guys later, but some part of the blame needs to go on them too, at least in my opinion. And I already had a problem with running back roster that this team assembled, and I would say running game did not necessarily help Caleb to be great. But I think he was still good, and I'm absolutely not worried about him, especially when they were able to land offensive mind top coach in Ben Johnson. So with that being said, let's check the running back room. During the season, they've traded Khalil Herbert to the Bengals. It was a smart decision, I would say, for both of the teams, despite like in the Bengals he didn't necessarily get a shot, but they were not playing him that much, and they handed this role pretty much to DeAndre Swift, which was a decision I struggled a lot last offseason. And despite him having like nearly 400 yards, I still didn't see a difference maker on the field. And I challenge anyone who was really watching the Bears football to like explain to me why would I see that in DeAndre Swift, because I just don't. Like, yeah, he has massive production, but he has massive workload, and I don't see a special player. I see this starter that, as my second best option, I'm kind of okay with, but definitely not a guy that I want to be paying so heavily, because they are paying what? I will give you exact numbers. Yeah, it's 9 million this year, 9 million next year. In terms of their cap situation, and he's pretty much uncuttable this year because that would only save you 500k, so they are kind of stuck with him for this year, in my opinion. Not only it kind of slows development on Rashawn Johnson, who I feel like at this point is even a better running back than DeAndre is, though he's kind of less free down workhorse. He's much more of a passing snap specialist than DeAndre is, but at the same time it kind of perhaps could even like discourage you from investing into this room, which, despite me liking Rashawn Johnson and not saying that DeAndre is like a super bad player, this is one of the worst running back rooms in the league. Like, that's just true. Like, I don't think per amount of volume, per amount of like open lanes that these guys had, they've done anything superb with that. So I continue my, I wouldn't call it hate. Like, I do understand that DeAndre Swift is a very, very talented player. He's physically gifted, but his vision, his ability to like really elevate his game to the level that his body would suggest, I just don't see that. I just really don't. Unfortunately, on this slide, I had to put Tyler Scott, who didn't have a super bad first year, but kind of didn't get to play in year 2 at all. He was second round wide receiver that I expected to be involved slightly more. No, not slightly, like much more than he did. And I'm still like going to trust in his future, but third year, like time flies by, Tyler. So that's why Tyler is here, despite him not playing almost any snaps, because it was a surprise to me that he just couldn't carve any role in that offense. In terms of wide receivers that did, and like for a good reason, they had a priority over Tyler, it's DJ Moore, it's Keenan Allen, and it's Rome Odunze. I had to lower DJ Moore from his elite status, and he kind of let me down, man. Like, I was sitting here telling you, watch out. For the first time in his career, DJ Moore is going to be really exceptional in the way that I also see him. Like, I don't think he had that elite status for majority of the player or of the fans across the league. I was like, just watch. When he finally has a proper QB, you will see an exceptional player. And kind of unfortunately, we have not seen that. The workload was very similar, but the production declined quite heavily, like around like 300, 400 yards a season, which is not a small amount. I mean, Like I said, you could argue, well, now he suddenly has number 2, number 3 wide receiver. That would be a fair criticism, but that would only be relevant in case his workload would lower dramatically, but it didn't. He had pretty much the same amount of target as he did last year. For Keenan Allen, I wouldn't say he was bad. Again, especially early in the season, I think he was one of the trusted targets for Caleb Williams. But at the same time, when you are kind of assembling this God trio of wide receivers for rookie QB, like in terms of comparing to any free wide receivers that rookie QBs usually have towards their advantage, Keenan did not ascend to the level that he had just a year prior with Justin Herbert. What is good for him, for his future, and we will see whether this future is going to be tied with the Bears because he is a free agent, is he stayed healthy, which is kind of like the biggest concern about him. So I definitely am not going to sit here and say Keenan Allen is done or anything, but I'm not seeing him at the level that even last season he was able to produce. So that's why I'm like, when we talk about like Alvin Kamara and like do not compare him to his like the best version of himself. Here I'm going to compare Keenan much more because that best or almost best version was just last season and he just wasn't there. For Ramudunse, I think this was a very good season for a rookie wide receiver. I'm not saying that he was kind of insane, but he definitely moved his ass towards a good starter category, and I think he's going to be the reason why we won't see Keenan Allen resigning here, unless he would like really have kind of low demands, because I think he's a little bit of redundant with Roma in terms of their role, as well as kind of stopping his development, and you probably want Caleb to develop a connection with Rome, who is going to be here for at least 4 more seasons, rather than with Keenan, who you cannot really trust on himself, and with his age, you are also not certain with that. In terms of tight ends, Cole Kmet started the year quite nicely, but slowed down quite heavily towards the end of the season. I think he's, your above average, around top 10, between top 10, top 15 tight end in the league. Nothing more, nothing less, but you might question whether he is necessarily worth the money that they are paying him, because he got really nice contract. But I would still say 12.5 million a year for this type of tight end is just on his kind of market value, and I wouldn't say that he necessarily downplayed that. Again, we might see if he will have a bigger role if Keenan Allen is not back. Here you also have one of my favorite players in the league, which is Mercedes Lewis. I wonder if he's going to be back for yet another season. I absolutely love this veteran. He absolutely knows what he is. You know what you're getting from him. Experience and tough player that's going to show what he is. But yeah, his age is really catching up with him, and I'm not really sure if he wants to put his body through yet another year of this when he does not necessarily need to do so. The disappointment definitely comes with Gerald Everett, who was one of the signings that they've made in the offseason, and they've already parted way with him, unless I am hugely mistaken. They've cut him. Yep. And by that they freed up 5.5 million, only to be left with 1 million in that cap. So again, with Gerald Everett, he had definitely his years in the league, but what he showed last season was just not enough. And even the contract that he signed, 2 years, 12 million, was kind of suggesting that they are not super high on him. And with just only 6 million being guaranteed, it was easy decision to let him go. So we will see how they go about this room beside Cole Kmet. And now the infamous offensive line. And we start with a player that I just cannot wrap my head around why, Chicago fans, but across the league, they just don't feel like Braxton Jones is a good player. And I'm like, dude, this guy's a franchise tackle, man. And this is one of the situations where his draft pedigree definitely plays a huge part in this because he was an exceptional find in the 5th round. But okay, does he look like Darnell Wright? No, he's not this absolute beast of a human being. Is he top 10 left tackle in the league? No, but the competition there is just ludicrous. He's very, very freaking solid left tackle. He just played his 3rd season, it's not like he cannot get better. And when you see this player, I'm not really sure what, why would you dislike him? He plays hard. He plays hard. He's been improving, I would say, over these 3 years. Definitely was not like a rookie that jumped high and never ceased that momentum again. He was there to be playing almost every game so far, played 2.5k snaps, so missing like half of the season from the first 3. So injuries are not really a huge concern. I mean, what is there about him that people are questioning about and suggesting that Bears should draft a tackle? Please let me know down in the comments. What am I not seeing with Braxton Jones? Because, dude, he is great. Freak. Yeah, we have Abe Lucas and Charles Cross. Though Abe Lucas is right tackle and injury prone, but Charles Cross is our left tackle. I mean, I probably wouldn't exchange him with Braxton Jones, but it's really close. And if we didn't have him, if I was starting my franchise and Braxton was available, dude, there's very few left tackles that I would take over him, playing as good as he is just 3 years into his career. There's very few of them. I'm sorry, guys. I just needed to get it out of my chest. Of course, he might be compared to Darnell Wright, who as right tackle made a huge stride in 2nd year and absolutely showing his worth, being 1st round and super highly drafted player for the Chicago Bears. They drafted him 10 overall, and he definitely repays that. It could have been a little bit of a question, especially for right tackle, that teams don't tend to value as high as left tackles, investing such a huge draft pick. And a lot of people were saying maybe he will overcome Braxton Jones and going to be moved to left tackle. Hell no, keep him as right tackle. In 3 years, he could be the best right tackle in the league, though Penei Sewell will probably exist still in that point. So, and Joe Alt probably. Okay, so top 3. I definitely see a situation in which, in next 3 years, because Lane Johnson has to eventually not play, he could be a top 3 right tackle in the league. He's absolute stud, and it was very, very encouraging year from him. And again, when you are starting, they have really good franchise, in my opinion, tackles. What are we talking about them? Caleb having miserable protection, because I don't really think he did. As a swing tackle, I absolutely love Larry Borom. He's just a guy that was, to me, one of the reasons why I didn't understand the Kieran Amegachi pick, because I feel like he is one of these guys that is happy to be here, and you can kind of get him even after the season for very cheap, and he's going to just do his job whenever you point at him. And he's not going to be great, but for a swing tackle to just bring back, he could be worth $2 million right now. I would be jumping up and down to bring Larry Borom into this room and not to touch it. Pay Braxton Jones whenever times come. Pay Darnell Wright and just keep this trio together. So that was part of why Kieran pick did not necessarily make sense to me, because you are not necessarily getting cheaper. Larry is fucking cheap, and for that he's I would say as of right now a better player than Kieran. Obviously he doesn't have that highest potential, but why the fuck do you need potential when you have your franchise tackles and they are fucking young? I'm sorry guys for the F words, but I'm really passionate about especially Braxton Jones here. Okay, so that was their tackles. And now let's check the interior group. Tevin Jenkins was able to stay almost free from injuries, which is a very good thing for him. And he, again, like whenever this guy is healthy, he's playing like top 15 guard in the league, to put it safe. Like he is really a really great player. Obviously, you have to put his health into equations, whether and how much are you going to pay him, because right now he's a free agent. I felt like I was surprised that they did not prolong his contract, but I would say one, injuries, and two, they knew they were obviously going to look for a new head coach, and perhaps it's going to be a lot about him, whether Tevin Jenkins is what Ben Johnson wants, because like you are going to have to make, I would say, not a small kind of commitment in terms of money. Let's check his market value. Passport, it's 10 millions a year, which definitely has in it his injury history. To me, you just pay this guy. Like, unless you know something that the injuries are going to get worse, like there is not a chance to get better, and on average we are paying him to play like half of the season, then of course 10 millions is a bit rich and also like prevents you to actually build this room solidly. But other than that, I think Tevin Jenkins is definitely worth that money, and I would be a little bit surprised if he's not back with the Bears. I will say the same thing about Matt Pryor, who was kind of a revelation, 30 years old. He came here as like swing possibility after really not great years that he had. I think it was with the Packers, if I'm not mistaken, where he played. Matt, where did you play 2 years before? No, Packers. Okay. Oh, Colts and Frisco. But it's like, came, didn't expect much from him. That's why he got like league minimum for a veteran player. And he played over 1,000 snaps, and he looked like a league quality guard. Like you cannot say it differently. He was really, really good. Like it was like not a weakness in his game. Like yeah, his run blocking wasn't like up par with the best players on this position, but it was not horrific by any stretch of imagination. And like another player that we will see whether Ben Johnson like values his qualities, but he definitely earned himself a contract. Whether it's going to be here or with someone else remains to be seen. With Coleman Shelton, where do we stand on Coleman? He was kind of this similar option to Ryan Bates, bring two veterans before the season, and they eventually like went for Matt Pryor, where they kind of decided that Nate Davis is not going to be it. But the whole process was about it. Well, we are not sure about Nate Davis. Tevin Jenkins is a huge injury concern, and we need to protect Caleb through the middle, at least to some degree. So they brought several veterans, Ryan Bates, Coleman Shelton, eventually Matt Pryor, to play solid, and they just fucking did. Coleman Shelton definitely put up really good season as a center. Was he exceptional player? Is he Tyler Linderbaum? Is he Creed Humphrey? No, but you have not paid him to be that, and you didn't expect him to be that. Like you paid $3 million and you got really, really nice return on that, and kind of expectedly he's supposed to be twice as expensive for next season, and he definitely deserved that. So neither of these guys is actually under contract for next season, so we will see how Ben Johnson will approach this offensive line, whether they will invest in it massively in terms of free agency, trying to go for someone like Trey Smith, or whether they will invest through the draft. I would say it's probably going to be a little bit of both, and I'm really, really interested to see how many of the guys are going to be coming back. Especially with Tevin Jenkins, I would be shocked if he isn't. We already talked about Kieran. Ryan was signed to be the emergency backup. He lost his center battle with Coleman Shelton and was just, swing guard when they needed it. Overall, the offense was like behind the expectations. I would actually say the one part of it that was exceeding the expectations was actually the offensive line, which gets a lot of hate out there, and I just don't think that they should. It showed a late bloomer, it Matt Pryor, it showed almost healthy Tevin Jenkins, very solid Coleman Shelton, huge huge second season for Darnell Wright, and again, very, very freaking solid year from Braxton Jones. So that's that, but is this room like doomed to die? Do you expect Caleb to just don't recover from this? And also, like, let's not forget that even like offensive coaching went kind of down the window when there was a lot of reshuffling after Matt Rebrov was fired. So I'm not in a worry. I'm just excited to see what Ben Johnson does with them. Now let's move towards the defense. We start with Montez Sweat, kind of the one and only piece that everybody was talking like he needs to save them, he needs to be their best guy, and he's by far their best guy. He played well, but he didn't play like he was step ahead. Oh no, step ahead, yeah, but not 2 steps ahead of the competition in terms of our competition. Let's say his partners in terms of D-line. He was still a really good player, but I think he kind of went a little bit down to earth compared to a really good season he had last year. Still, if he's my second best edge, I'm jumping up and down. If he's my best, I'm a little bit, I'm worried, but he can handle that role. Like, it's not like he is a liability in there, but he would be like down 7, like 25th best number 1 option as an edge. Maybe something between 20 and 25, but there is a lot of really nice edge 1 pieces in there that I would definitely take over Montez Sweat. Then they had 2 players that were kind of coming with, I would say, different expectations. From Darrell Taylor, I did not expect much. Like, I watched this guy play with the Seahawks, and it was not always pretty, and that's almost being too nice to him. But especially in like the first part of the season, his pass rushing, which was always his specialty, he's very light for an edge player, so he really struggles against in his run defense. But he was quick, he was twitchy, and he could get to the QB. Had several pressures, some sacks. It slowed down a little bit down the second half of the season, but still, for a rotational piece, he absolutely delivered what you perhaps even not expected from him, because in some games he really was visible out there. Another player that I just got like slightly more than I expected, because I was a little bit underwhelmed by DeMarcus Walker and his stay here in the Bears, or with the Bears. I feel like he was absolutely adequate, though it did not save him from being cut by the organization, but it was always about like clearing some space, because his third year was always like a bit of a fluff, and you could save over $5 million on him. Though, like, as of right now, I think for his production that he got in this year, $5 million for this player, I'm not necessarily sure that I do agree with this decision. But once again, this is all about, like, here is kind of clear table. Dennis Allen as defensive coordinator, Ben Johnson as offensive-minded head coach. Do whatever you want to do. And DeMarcus Walker, obviously, being 30 years of age, perhaps they just want to go younger and develop someone else there, and not want DeMarcus Walker to taking his snaps, which I think like is possible thinking, and not necessarily I would argue hugely against. But I think he definitely earned himself some contract in the area of $5 to $6 million for his next team. I do really doubt that he's going to go for less, because like for my rotational edge piece, someone I'm willing to give 400 to 500 snaps, yeah, yeah, I'm definitely willing to pay 5 million for that, for what DeMarcus Walker is at this part of his career. In terms of interior, you needed to hit on Jervon Dexter in his second year. You needed someone next to Montez Sweat to give you pressures, to give you ability to go after QB, and to bring, or like to say it, to give you quality. And Jervon Dexter just did that. He had, I'm not going to say monster second season, but very, very good second season. It was clear that defensive coaching in the league is getting to him. He's able to time his get off much better than he was used to, and it showed on his production and on his, like, let's say, visibility in the game. There is great player in him, and I think, like, do I feel like he has elite potential? Probably not, but I would not be shocked if he is going to, like, within the next 2-3 years, really put himself out there towards the conversation for like top 10 best defensive tackle. I really feel like everything is there in terms of the possibility for this to happen. Beside him, Andrew Billings, kind of veteran presence there, unfortunately unable to play too many games, and it was kind of like not really much that they had left. I didn't put Chris Williams here because it was like not really much. We already talked about Austin Booker in terms of, I put him here. Yeah, we talked about Austin Booker to like close out on the edge room. Here you can see like what they were kind of forced to put out there. Zach Pickens is not working out. A guy that they've spent 65 pick overall in 2024 draft. Just did not happen for him so far, and question whether it will. Byron Coward, interesting pickup. Like, it's been kind of several years since he's been drafted into the league. I think it was towards the Patriots. He was out of the league for pretty much since 2020, like 2021, 2023, he didn't play at all. 2022, it was a couple of snaps. They kind of snake him off the streets. And like, it's not a small sample size, like it's not a huge one, but there might be something in him. So definitely a player that you can, if you are absolute nerd to a degree, you can put out there and perhaps watch how his how is he going to work out, because there might be still something in him. That pretty much summarizes the whole defensive line. I would say what is there to look for is definitely Jervon Dexter, because you have potential to have someone really, really special in this room. Let's move towards linebackers, which is the room they've invested heavily in, especially in Tremaine Edmunds. Unfortunately, he is just not returning the investment. Yet another, I would say, disappointing season for him. He was paid after one huge year for Buffalo and obviously for his trades and for his draft pedigree, but he just does not deliver. This is one of the biggest mistakes I would put on like Matt Eberflus's head, because I feel like he had his huge say into signing of Tremaine Edmunds and he just does not deliver. I think he is average linebacker at best, and for him to be paid as like a top 5 linebacker, it's just a huge problem. I wonder whether it's like you cut him this year where the savings are not huge, like you are saving 4 million this year and 70 next one, or if they will play him this year, kind of giving him the last choice under the new defensive coordinator, whether he will re-emerge as this potential star, because like the traits are there, but it's never like translated to the field beside that 1 year with the Buffalo, or if they will cut ties with him immediately because he's just not worth the money. Unlike TJ Edwards, who is on severely underpaid contract compared to Tremaine Edmunds, like 10 million a year less, and to me he is a comparable player, perhaps even slightly better one, but even he just didn't have necessarily a great year. I feel like you can definitely say that with Matt Eberflus gone, the level of defense really stepped down. So you could see like why like Matt Eberflus was not doing poor job for sure handling this defense. Just like perhaps he was doing a very poor job with his time management and timeouts. Yeah, you can say that. And again, and we'll talk about one decision that he did not make, and I feel like that could have cost them this year, as harsh as this will sound, but that's going to be in 2 more slides. Now let's check Jack Sanborn, undrafted guy that they have a chance to bring for very cheap back. I would be shocked if they did not, because it's going to be around 1 million, and he just is a solid linebacker into rotation. Like, do I want to see Tremaine Edmunds out there for 17 million or Jack Sanborn on 1.5? I think you guys know the answer, right? So let's move towards the secondary. Here I will take a little of a victory lap because I stayed true to trust in Kevin Byard. I was like surprised that Philadelphia let him go. Obviously they won Super Bowl, so it sounds like a good decision. But him being here for cheap, they were able to pick him up on 2 years, $15 million deal. I felt like was really nice value, and I think Kevin Byard definitely showed that. He stopped, I would say, declining. Is he towards the best he was? No. The age shows on himself, especially in coverage, but he kind of were able to slightly remodel himself, remodel how he needs to approach the game, and I think he's still a very useful player and really good one. And Chicago Bears are happy to have him for $8.5 million for next year. Unfortunately, Jaquan Brisker season was cut down due to injury, but you have nice young safety out there. That's like in 3 years that he's been here, he just was never a problem, and always kind of delivering solid performance ever since he was drafted. Really nice return from second rounder. Do you want him to take next step? I was definitely ready to promote him to good starter this year, but just 5 games were not enough. But he is definitely on my watch. With Jonathan Owens, he was kind of supposed to be, I think, afterthought in the safety room. I have like a backup that will get his chance only if someone gets injured. Unfortunately for the Bears, it happened, but he stepped up and definitely delivered. Though I would say his combination with Byard is very vulnerable in terms of neither of them is really good in terms of coverage. So you either need to promote the coverage, but by putting 4 corners out there in some type of nickel formation, or and I think you definitely prefer that, have Kevin next to Jaquan Brisker. Though all of these guys have 1 more year left, I do expect them to re-sign Jaquan Brisker for sure, and we will see what the future holds for Kevin Byard. And now let's move towards cornerbacks. Do we want to say 1 more word around Elijah Hicks, who kind of was, how do you put it? Like, he was the band-aid to go to play at free safety when Jaquan Brisker got injured, just then to be kind of replaced by Jonathan Owens. But definitely for a 7th rounder, he performed nice, especially when this is not necessarily his primary position. He can play something in the box, something as a slot, so kind of a versatile option that you are really happy to have. You can say the same about Terrell Smith, though he is, I wouldn't definitely don't see him as a versatile player to the degree that he can play safety out there. But another late round find for this young secondary. They really went with an approach. Let's put together a group of young players. They were even able to hit on some later round picks and let them develop together. And unlike with the Giants or Commanders, where the approach was similar, here you see and you reap the rewards, because with both Hicks and Smith, we are talking about guys that are not starters. Yet whenever you call upon them, they are delivering really good performance. So it's going to be interesting how they will handle it when they will need to pay these guys. But for now, you are definitely happy to have such a nice depth and such a cheap and young and potential, filled with potential depth in secondary. But let's go to the guys that were actually playing the major snaps. So we start with Jalen Johnson. Did he have as exceptional year as he did year before? No, his ball production lowered. He had several interceptions left, but to me, he absolutely solidified himself as like top 7 corner in the league at worst. The only thing that is still in the back of your mind is his injury history that is not super small, but he was able to play pretty much the whole year. He was really, really good, and you are super happy to have him. The same goes for Kyle Gordon, one of the best slot corners in the league. Really well all-around type of guy that probably is what he is, won't develop, but like if you get this guy for like 5 more years, because I definitely feel like at 25 years of age that's a real possibility, you have a huge, great presence out there. And now let's go towards decision that to me kind of cost the Bears the season. It's Tyreek Stevenson, and it's what he done in the last play against the Washington. I was so freaking fed up, man. And I know it might sound like unfair and too harsh on this young man. But what the fuck are you doing? Like, okay, you want to make some cool video. Well, first of all, you should not. You should not have your mind when the game is not done, when the play is not done. You should not have your mind on like anything else but the play. But yeah, that's the part that I can kind of get, that he was so pumped up, the game was almost wrapped up, that he was like taunting the fans. I can understand that a little bit, but to not stop when the play started. He literally stopped taunting them like 3-4 seconds down the play. This is so freaking wrong. And then obviously when you are about to get hit, let's get hit harder, because he kind of panics when he realizes the play is on. He rushes towards where the ball is landing and tips it, so it lands towards, I'm not sure who was, I think it was Noah Brown, but not sure at this point, who just catches the easiest Hail Mary catch in anyone's career. If he continued to taunt the Washington fans, most likely the tip never happens, and Chicago wins that game and goes, I think at that point it would be like 5-2. They went on I think 9 or 10 game losing streak after that. But it's at that point, I was thinking I would cut him. I know he played well. I know he's a good player, though his second part of the season he was almost getting benched because it was not good. But up to that point of his career, he was a very promising player. I was like, dude, you just cost me game because you needed to taunt someone. I'm not sure how I would get past that as a GM and as a coach, as a guy with him in that locker room, because it just feels like such a fucking betray. But okay, I'm you are young, you made stupid mistake. Unfortunately, it cost us a lot. But the fact that he was not even punished, to me, if I'm not cutting him, 5-game ban. 5-game, I'm not playing him. I don't give a shit, man. There needs to be a signal sent to this locker room that this is not acceptable. This is not fucking acceptable. But they have not done that. Let me check. I think there was just no punishment whatsoever, if I'm looking on that correctly. So I really feel like that was really one situation that you can point towards the Bears season and was pretty big turnaround and what was actually going very well. I'm not saying they would make some noise and they would probably still end up with 8-9 record, something like that. But I can really point to that moment where I stopped believing in Bears, but not just because this, but because of lack of accountability for Tyreek. Like, it was like, yeah, I'm sorry, whatever. I mean, obviously, I cannot see in the locker room. Perhaps, he just really apologized to everyone, and it was kind of a team decision that we want to continue with Tyreek. He is the best. That's the best to give us chance going forward. But I would not go past this. I would not. I really laughed when, for much lower type of stupidity, for Jair Alexander, who was not supposed to go on a coin toss and went for Packers like last year, and if not for referees, he would actually kind of lost them the coin toss and gave the ball to the opposition twice, both on both starting halves. Packers went and punished their all-star corner and gave him 1 game suspension for like what is essentially nothing to compared to what Tyreek Stevenson did. So that really was something that I couldn't get my head wrapped around it, how there was kind of no accountability for what happened. On that kind of very harsh note, we are going to end the rundown of this roster and hand out some rewards. So for draft hit, they didn't necessarily have many. I mean, you could go with Torrey Taylor, but I would say it's still Caleb. And yeah, he might not overplay his expectation for sure, but he was still good. And he is the guy that will attract, that has attracted Ben Johnson here. Like, I don't think you can definitely deny that. So to me, that still makes him a winner. In terms of draft blunder, I guess you guys could have guessed it. Kieran Amagaji, I wasn't a fan. I did not see a good player out there, and I'm really, looking forward what Ben Johnson will do with this guy and whether he will carve himself some type of role within this Bears offense. Because if year 1 is an indicator, he's going to be very bad bust for them, but obviously it's not a huge sample size. In terms of cornerstone of this franchise, again, there was several possible players I've considered, but I think here I want to appreciate someone that was really playing to the top level. So it actually boiled down to Jalen Johnson or Darnell Wright, and it was really, really close competition. But I would say at this point, having top 5 corner or top 7 corner in the league is slightly more valuable to me than having top 10 right tackle. Though, like I said, this could have been one of them. Both of them had really, really good season and really cemented themselves as huge building blocks for this franchise going forward. In terms of unsung hero, it's going to be Gavin Dexter, kind of guy that absolutely needed to work in this season because the defensive line was lacking a talent behind Montez Sweat, and they needed someone to step up and play well. And they expected that from Gavin because it was always a plan that he's going to be a guy that could take a year to develop, but then he should be a very nice tackle. And he did that. So I really encourage you to watch this young man because the tools are there and he could be a really special player. With a flop, I could have gone from DeAndre Swift, but I actually decided to go for Keenan Allen. And here is really harsh on him because under no circumstances he played super bad football. But I actually, when I was looking to the Bears, I don't really felt like there was anyone that I expected to play great and he super under-delivered. I would say perhaps Tyreek Stevenson could have been here, but I already knew that I was going to be really harsh on him through the rundown, so I was let's not do this twice. DeAndre Swift, the same, but again, I was super low on him, so and Keenan is probably the one guy that I was super high on, and he did not necessarily deliver that expectation. Also, DJ Moore could have been here. Like, let's be honest. And that's where like the flop could sound really, really harsh for these guys, because they are really good players. But I've expected more, and it's not like I felt like the expectations were unrealistic. So Keenan, I'm kind of sorry, man. I like you. I like you as a player. I was really a huge fan of you with the Chargers, with Justin Herbert, Mike Williams. It was very fun duo. Unfortunately, we did not get to experience that too often. And despite I'm calling you a flop, in a short video you will get one good and one bad play. So I don't do that very often for someone I call a flop. It's just I needed to give this reward to someone, and I really didn't see that many candidates on this roster, to be told. So it was a young roster that had its obvious flaws, and some guys did not necessarily take the strides that you hoped for, but do you call that a flop, right? So, with awards being given and my apologies being sent to Keenan Allen, let's just take a look at this state of the franchise overall. So, they've acquired Ben Johnson, and I will give him my highest grade that I do give rookie head coaches or like first-time head coaches. It's going to be A-. What is there to say? He's been probably offered like half of the jobs in the NFL in the last two hire cycles. What he's done with Lions offense is absolutely creative, fantastic, fun. Like, everybody is excited about this guy. You only need to see him being able to handle the position overall, because now he's just not going to be responsible for the offense. And, you know, can he be like, let's say, another Kyle Shanahan that can do both? Can he be another Sean McVay that can do both? That's the only thing that remains to be seen. But for the Bears, absolutely slam dunk hire. They are super happy to have him. 2024 season, I would say, is a D+. It's still a year in which like you underachieved a lot of the expectations. There was a lot of turmoil within the organization, but you know, with the hires that were done right now, you feel like you are on the right track, because Dennis Allen, I think, is also a very good hire for being defensive coordinator, kind of a guy that has already been head coach, obviously, and he could really help Ben Johnson with his role as a head coach as well. So I really like this combination of really young, progressive offensive mind and next to him, experienced defensive former head coach. That's a really nice hire. But yeah, like, the progress have not been made. Also, I think something that has to be put here is like, well, the division just looked insane. Like, 3 teams went into the playoffs, so they were all one and done. And yeah, that's kind of it. Like, underachieved. It was not horrible. You have not destroyed Caleb. Some of the young guys made a really nice progress, but it still was not what the Bears wanted. In terms of QB, it's like, I really was like, how am I not giving this 3 pluses, right? Because I will definitely do that with Jaden Daniels, for example. And the thing was, for me, like, I reserved this to either like top quarterbacks or guys that I am kind of really certain that they will work. And with Caleb, I still have a little bit of doubt, and that doubt is just because of we've seen some of the things that you hoped that would not like creep out, especially for him holding the ball super freaking long. And he needs to not do that. He needs to kind of unteach himself to really try to win with every play. And everything that like you already do for a year on NFL level, it's going to be slightly harder to unteach. And this was always my worry with them. Keeping Matt Eberflus before last year is like, the 1 year of Caleb, like perhaps doing his stuff more than a really good offensive head coach would allow him to do, could be detrimental to his overall progress. So that's my kind of only worry. Otherwise, you are obviously still in very luxury situations with Caleb still 4 years on his rookie deal. No injury creeping up or anything. Hot seat is only 2 because there is unclear management after death of a long-time Bears owner, and now it's like 13 people kind of have some kind of share. So first of all, rest in peace, Virginia Les McKiskey. Sorry guys, I needed to Google the name. It's just like not necessarily my forte knowing who owns any franchise, but I've heard nothing but exceptional words for her. Yet the state of the franchise in terms of now there is way too many owners, it could be a bit of a problem, and that's the only like minor question mark for Ben's future. In terms of finances, they are in a really good spot. The only thing that I would say kind of holds them back is that they don't necessarily have like a monumental cap hit for this year, yet it's 78 million, so it's not like 120 that or 110 that Patriots have. Also, it's done because of like today NFL announced a new cap hit, so it's slightly boosted from that, as well as they have some contracts that are not necessarily great. Like Tremaine Edmonds, I'm looking at you, and DeAndre Swift, where are you? Yeah, here you are. Yeah, I know you. I know. And also, there is a lot of players that are going to end their rookie contracts, and you will have to pay them. So it's not like you wasted a lot of good young players, but besides Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze, there is not necessarily, and perhaps Dana, right? You don't necessarily have like super huge amount of young guys that will going to be like for 3 years or 4 years here on a really cheap deals, but it's really like very close to 3+. Yeah, obviously. So in terms of strength, here I gave my kudos to Caleb Williams because I think he is definitely one of the biggest attractions that brought Ben Johnson here, and it's kind of this domino effect. With him, you can attract Ben Johnson. With Ben Johnson, you can definitely attract some veterans, whether it's wide receivers, whether it's guards. They could perhaps go to and play here, which in otherwise would not be interesting. So even though I had some critics of Caleb Williams, even though I did not put 3+ in his column, I think he's still like the biggest strength of the Bears. But in terms of division, this is clear 3- because, well, you have 3 playoff teams in your division. In Lions, you, I think, still have a juggernaut, despite them being carved out for both their coordinators. With the Packers, there is a little bit of questions, but they are still a really good team and still really young, though some questions about wide receivers health are looming over their head. And with the Vikings, I mean, they've had such a season with Sam Darnold. So JJ McCarthy obviously has surprisingly huge shoes to fill, but they've hand-chosen him, and I do have a lot of faith in him. And they just proved that they have such an exceptional situation to be entered by pretty much any quarterback, as well as being able to hold on Brian Flores, who, to my huge shock, didn't get the head coaching job. I don't understand it, man. I just hope that it was like his decision, that he didn't want some of the worst jobs and the best jobs were already taken, because like the fact that he is not a head coach is what are we doing? And I feel like he is definitely a guy that deserves it. Obviously there's still some like legal issues with him and with Miami, so that could be something that prevents him to being called upon the interviews and stuff. But it's a bit annoying, and I don't know. Like, I don't necessarily feel like he is the guy as he's sometimes portrayed by those accusations, but I could be wrong, obviously. So I'm not almighty and all-knowing by any stretch of imagination, and I would never even wish to be, because it sounds like a tough thing to handle. But overall, that's the Bears. Now let's check how the roster could shape up under Ben Johnson. So I think your tackles are absolutely set up. Like if anybody is like, yeah, mocking them to draft tackle highly, I'm just done with you guys. No. Caleb is obviously set in stone. I think both Jenkins and Pryor could be back. I feel like they are really good players for the money that they should be offered, but perhaps I was a little bit too eager to see them back. And as of right now, it's far from certainty because it's been a while since they have not been re-signed. In terms of skilled positions, I think you are certain on DJ Moore and Rome Odunze as your number one, number two. I think Rome will be put into that role, especially when you have nice tight end in Coltman. You don't necessarily need to make huge investment into this role. In terms of running backs, I will be mocking them a lot of the times, Ashton Jeanty, because I just think that A, Ben Johnson will not be afraid to draft him. B, he would be a great fit here. C, he's absolutely going to be a great player in the NFL. D, at number 10, I know it's a running back, but the market is kind of remembering that running backs are very important. So I actually would call him almost not a steal, but definitely value there. And there are not necessarily a lot of teams before the Bears that will be looking at Jeanty and really considering him. And, Ben Johnson with Jahmyr Gibbs, I think he perfectly understands what exceptional running backs can do for you. In terms of who is going to be behind these guys, it's really about how Ben Johnson wants to approach this, whether it's going to be some veteran signings and he just wants to evaluate what he has in the guys that are already in the room, or whether they will draft some guys in here. In terms of backups, I do still have Kiran Amegaji here. Ryan Bates is still here, experience center that is not going anywhere. I think if he was going somewhere, I would say that he would probably be cut by now. And he's kind of a cheap option, $4 million a year, though you can get out of it without any cap casualty, but still not cut. Probably means that they want some experience back here. Tyler Scott in his third year, I do expect him that he will be on the fourth piece of wide receiver depth chart, but whether he's going to be able to carve himself a better role, it's remained to be seen. And with Roshan Johnson, I don't think as of right now I would consider him starting 3-down running back, but as kind of change of the pace, more pass catching ability, yeah, I definitely want him as my backup. In terms of QB backup, I don't know who. I'm kind of sure that's not going to be someone drafted unless they will try to go in some Jalen Milroe type conversion into something like Taysom Hill type of interesting situation, but most of the time it's going to be some experienced QB that's just going to be here to back Caleb Williams and mentor him. I don't really see Tyson Bagent being a backup. That's the offense. Now let's go to the defense. Montez Sweat and Gervon Dexter, clearly the guys that are going to be here. And next to them, I really do expect that this is a position that they will want to strengthen. They need a better defensive line. And again, coming from the Lions, Ben Johnson definitely understands that Lions are where you win games. So I do expect them to invest heavily here, both through free agency and through the draft. With linebackers, I still have Tremaine Edmunds on this roster because the saving is just not substantial enough for me to justify cutting him right now. And with that being said, I still believe there is something in him, but it's pretty much show me under a new head coach, under definitely Dennis Allen, who should, if there is something in Tremaine Edmunds that is this potential top 5 linebacker as what they are paying him to be, and he cannot show it under Matt Eberflus and Dennis Allen, then I don't know what you want. these are really great defensive coaches, especially for this position. Just need to show it. Next to him, TJ Edwards, absolutely no brainer. In terms of secondary, this is one of those situations where I'm like, yeah, this is pretty much set up. Like, I don't necessarily expect them to invest into this anything like substantial. The only kind of question mark is like Tyreek Stevenson as your number 2 corner as of right now is probably not good enough, but you trust his development. And if not, like, don't you trust Terrell Smith to take his job? So I'm like, I would not put anything into this room. Perhaps like someone experienced that, but not necessarily a starter here. So I will be shocked if they, would go and draft like someone super high towards this room, because this room was built to play together, to grow together, and eventually probably get paid together. So unless you are feeling like you should trade up some of these guys, I don't know. Like, I think their secondary is pretty set. In terms of backups, actually as well. Like, both DeMarcus Walker and Andrew Billings, in my head, were really good to be backups, though they, as of like it was 2 days ago, a week ago, a little bit before I assembled this slide, they've released DeMarcus Walker. It's a bit of an interesting choice, but they definitely want this position to be for Austin Booker, which I can get behind, giving him more snaps. Andrew Billings, an experienced veteran that, again, similarly to what I've said in numerous like interior defensive line rooms, let's have a veteran that can give you a really good floor and draft really nice players that are in this draft to be your starters, and in case of they are not looking good, just insert your veteran to play. So I think Andrew Billings is definitely that option for Big Zach, because you hope that he is going to give you something worth second round return, but as of right now, you are not necessarily expecting this to happen, so he's much more of a fourth option out there. And again, like with secondary, you have depth. Like, this room is kind of crazy stacked. Like, yeah, a lot of these guys are on 1 year. They have just 1 year remaining, but Elijah Hicks and Jonathan Owens are under contracts, and they are good players for being like third safety and fifth safeties, fourth safety / corner backups. Like, yeah, I would be thrilled to have these guys as my options, and the same goes for Jack Sanborn. So this defense, I think, is pretty set up with the exception of defensive line, and I think they will definitely focus their attention towards both lines. So it's interior of the offensive line, it's both edge and interior of defensive line, and I would say it's running backs. That's what, to me, is going to be where we see a lot of money and a lot of draft capital to be spent. Unless Ben Johnson will surprise me, which he definitely can. With that being said, the episode about the Bears is over. It was kind of bittersweet one, because I was also kind of high on Caleb, wanted to see him perform better, but kind of my predictions for this franchise materialized in terms of, well, I really expect them to fire Matt Eberflus, to have some internal turmoil that would essentially hurt Caleb in his first year and slightly stop this development, and unfortunately that's what happened. So I just hope that Ben Johnson can put this on the right track and won't be stopped by any ownership fight that might overtake Bears for a while. So we will see how that will shape up. With that being said, thank you very much for listening, for watching. If you are up to here, please leave a comment, leave a like, help, and any capacity that you have. This is just a couple of seconds, and it will help tremendously. Thank you very much. Till next time, have a nice day, and it's been a blessing to have a chance to talk about NFL. I just love it, guys. See you. Bye.